The farmer and the doctor were on different sides of the bed next to the very old woman who was not well. She was peaceful and ready because she knew it was her time to go, being 92 years old. The July sun came through the window and the open door, making the brown clay floor hot. The doctor spoke loudly, saying, "Honoré, you can't leave your mom like this. She might pass away any moment." The farmer, feeling very upset, said, "But I need to gather my wheat. It's been on the ground for a long time and the weather is perfect." "What do you think, Mom?" The old woman, troubled by her desire to save money, agreed silently, encouraging her son to gather the wheat and leave her alone. The doctor got mad, stamped his foot, and said, "You're no better than an animal, understand? I won't let you do it. If you must gather your wheat today, go and get Rapit's wife to take care of your mom. I insist, do you hear? If you don't listen, I'll let you suffer when you're sick, like a dog, understand?" The farmer, a tall and thin man who moved slowly, was troubled by doubt, afraid of the doctor, and strongly liked saving money. He hesitated, calculated, and said with difficulty, "How much does La Rapit ask for helping sick people?" The doctor shouted, "How would I know? It depends on how long she is needed. Sort it out with her, for heaven's sake. But I want her here within an hour, got it?" So the man decided, "I will go get her." "Don't be mad, doctor." The doctor left, warning, "Be careful, you know I'm serious when I'm angry." When they were alone, the farmer spoke to his mom in a calm voice, "I will go and bring La Rapit as the doctor insists. Don't worry until I get back." And he went out. La Rapit, an old washerwoman, watched over the dead and dying in the neighborhood. After sewing her clients into linen from which they wouldn't come back, she ironed the clothes of the living. Wrinkled like an old apple, mean, jealous, and very greedy, she was bent over as if broken in half by ironing. It seemed she had a strange and cynical love for death struggles. She only talked about people she had seen die, describing in great detail similar deaths, like a person talking about their luck. When Honoré Bontemps entered her small house, he found her working on starch for the collars of the women in the village and greeted her, "Good evening, I hope you're doing well, Mother Rapit?" She looked at him and said, as always, and you?" He replied, "Do. I'm as well as I could wish, but my mother is not well." She asked, "Your mother?" He confirmed, "Yes, my mother." She inquired, "What's wrong with her?" He explained, "She's going to pass away, that's what's wrong with her." The old woman took her hands out of the water and sympathetically asked, "Is she that bad?" He said, "The doctor says she won't last till morning." She reacted, "Then she's really sick?" Honoré hesitated, wanting to say a few things before making his proposal, but as he couldn't find the right words, he decided suddenly. "How much will you charge to stay with her until the end? You know I'm not rich, and I can't even afford to keep a servant girl. It's precisely that which has made my poor mother like this, too much worry and fatigue. She worked like 10 people, despite being 92. You don't find anyone like that nowadays." La Rapit responded seriously, "There are 2 prices, 40 cents during the day and 3 francs at night for the rich, and 20 cents during the day and 40 at night for others. You'll pay me 20 and 40. But the farmer thought about it, knowing his mother well. He knew how strong and determined she was, and she might last another week, despite the doctor's opinion. So he firmly said, "No, I'd prefer you to set a price for the whole time until the end. I'll take my chances one way or the other. The doctor says she'll die very soon. If that happens, it's better for you and worse for her. But if she holds on till tomorrow or longer, it's better for her and worse for you. The nurse looked at the man with surprise because she had never treated a death as a way to make money. She hesitated, tempted by the idea of possible gain, but she suspected that he might be trying to trick her. "I can't say anything until I've seen your mother," she replied. "Then come with me and see her." She washed her hands and went with him right away. They didn't talk on the road. She walked with short, quick steps, while he walked with his long legs, as if he were crossing a stream with every step. When they neared the house, Honoré Bontemps whispered, "What if it's all over?" His wish that it might be so unconsciously revealed itself in the sound of his voice. But the old woman was not dead. She lay on her back in her poor bed, her hands covered with a purple cotton blanket. Rapit approached the bed, checked on the dying woman, felt her pulse, tapped her chest, listened to her breathing, and asked her questions to hear her speak. After looking at her for some time, she left the room, followed by Honoré. Her firm opinion was that the old woman wouldn't last until night.
He asked, "Well?"
And the sick nurse replied, "Well, she might last 2 days, perhaps 3. You'll have to give me 6 francs, everything included."
6 francs.
6 francs, he shouted. "Are you crazy? I tell you she can't last more than 5 or 6 hours. They argued angrily for some time, but as the nurse said she had to go home, time was passing, and his wheat wouldn't come to the farmyard on its own, he finally agreed to her terms. "All right then, that's settled, 6 francs, including everything, until the corpse is taken out." And he went away quickly to his wheat lying on the ground under the hot sun that ripens the grain. Meanwhile, the sick nurse went back into the house. She had brought some work with her. She worked all the time, beside the dead and the dying, sometimes for herself, sometimes for the family that employed her as a seamstress. They paid her a little more in that role. Suddenly, she asked, "Did you get the last sacraments, Mother Bontemps?" The old peasant woman shook her head, and Rapit, who was very religious, got up quickly. "Oh my, is it possible? I'll go get the priest." She rushed off to the parsonage so quickly that the kids in the street thought something bad had happened when they saw her running. The priest came right away in his special clothes, preceded by a choir boy ringing a bell to announce the passage of the host through the dry and quiet countryside. Some men working in the distance took off their big hats and stayed still until the white vestment disappeared behind some farm buildings. The priest, with his head leaning to one side and a square hat on his head, followed him, saying some prayers. Last of all, Rapit walked bent almost double, as if she wanted to bow, walking with folded hands like in church. Honoré saw them pass in the distance and asked, "Where is our priest going?" His helper, who was smarter, replied, "He's taking the sacrament to your mother, of course." The peasant wasn't surprised and said, "Maybe," and went back to his work. Mother Bontemps confessed, received forgiveness, and took communion. The priest left, leaving the 2 women alone in the hot room. Rapit started wondering how much longer it could last. The day was getting darker, and cooler gusts of air began to blow. Lying still, with open eyes, she seemed to wait for death with indifference. Her short, whistling breath indicated it would stop soon, and one less woman would be in the world, and no one would miss her. At night, Honoré returned. Going up to the bed and seeing his mother alive, he asked, "How is she?" "Just like he used to when she was unwell." Then he sent Rapit away, telling her, "Tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock, without fail." She replied, "Tomorrow at 5 o'clock." She came at daybreak, finding Honoré eating his soup before work. The sick nurse asked him, "Well, is your mother dead?" "She is rather better, on the contrary," he replied with a sly look. And he went out. Rapit, filled with anxiety, approached the dying woman, who stayed in the same state, motionless and unresponsive, with open eyes and hands clutching the cover. The nurse realized this might go on for 2 days, 4 days, 8 days. Her greedy mind was scared, and she was angry at the sly man who tricked her and at the woman who wouldn't die. Still, she started working and waited, closely observing Mother Bontemps' wrinkled face. When Honoré returned for breakfast, he seemed satisfied and in a teasing mood. He was successfully harvesting his wheat under very good conditions. Rapit was getting frustrated. Every minute felt like time and money stolen from her. She felt an urge to stop the old woman, this stubborn and headstrong fool, and end her short, rapid breath stealing her time and money. But she thought about the danger and other things, so she went to the bed and asked, "Have you ever seen the devil?" Mother Bontemps mumbled, "No." Then the sick nurse started talking and telling stories that might frighten the weak mind of the dying woman. She said that just before someone dies, the devil appears. He carries a broom, wears a saucepan on his head, and shouts loudly. If anyone sees him, it means the end is near, and that person has only a few moments left. Mother Bontemps, disturbed in mind, moved around, wringing her hands, trying to turn her head to look toward the end of the room. Suddenly, Rapit disappeared at the foot of the bed. She took a sheet from the cupboard, wrapped herself in it, put the iron saucepan on her head so its bent feet looked like horns, and held a broom in her right hand and a tin pail in her left. She threw the pail to the ground with a loud noise. Climbing on a chair, the nurse lifted the curtain at the bottom of the bed, showing herself, making gestures, and shouting into the iron saucepan covering her face. She threatened the nearly dead old peasant woman with her broom. Terrified, with a crazy look on her face, the dying woman made a superhuman effort to get up and escape. She even got her shoulders and chest out of bed before falling back with a deep sigh. It was over. Rapit calmly put everything back in its place, the broom in the corner, the sheet in the cupboard, the saucepan on the hearth, the pail on the floor, and the chair against the wall. Then, with professional movements, she closed the dead woman's eyes, put a plate on the bed, poured some holy water into it, placed the twig of boxwood, nailed to the chest of drawers, in it, and knelt down, fervently repeating prayers for the dead that she knew by heart, as a matter of business. When Honoré returned in the evening, he found her praying. He immediately calculated that she had made 20 coins out of him, as she had only spent 3 days and 1 night there, making a total of 5 francs instead of the 6 he owed her.